Well, good evening, laddies, lasses, and lasses. Welcome to the click you smell just today. Oh yes, indeed. The human experience is quite fascinating. We're all dealing with the thought of growing older, realizing your own mortality, valuing time with friends and family and loved ones. But one additional thing that comes with it, of course, is the willingness to not grow into some out-of-touch, unlikable person. And what better way to avoid this than looking at r/BoomersBeingFools and knowing exactly what you shouldn't become when you grow older. Welcome to r/BoomersBeingFools, and I do hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy having you here. Let's get on with it, shall we? Mwah.
This is America. We speak English over here.
Boomer 2 minutes before he fell to the floor. My cousins are visiting me from India. We were standing at this Indo-Chinese takeout, standing in line, laughing and chatting in Hindi about whatever. I can't even remember. Old Dumbo suddenly pipes up,
This is America. We speak English over here.
Mind your business. We're not speaking to you, and we don't have to go out of our way to change our language just because you feel uncomfortable. So just mind your own business. I told them as politely as I could. Now, this old bastard obviously had no issue being rude before, so this didn't work. He just said the same thing again.
This is America. We speak English over here.
At least he's saying English and not speak America. That's half a gold star, half a poop-colored star. My cousin is 6 feet and pretty jacked. He gets in his face and tells him, and if we don't, what are you gonna do, huh? Oh boy, Mr. Boomer's face turned red. He started mumbling something about,
You listen here, I fought for this country,
and tried to grab my other cousin, who happens to be a lot smaller, by the collar. My cousin just swatted his hand away and stepped to the side. Somehow, the lovely Mr. Boomer lost his balance and fell to the floor. He immediately started screaming like a toddler and playing the victim, saying we assaulted him and called the police. A tough guy went from,
I fought for this country,
to laying on the floor throwing a tantrum like a toddler. Now, this is actually a place I frequent quite often, and I know the staff pretty well. In fact, I usually just walk in and they know what I want. I almost always order the same thing. I directed the Boomer's attention towards the camera that was facing us directly and would clearly show that he tried to grab my cousin and lost his balance somehow. But no, Mr. Boomer doubled down on his accusation that he was assaulted. This is something I see repeated so often, it's hilarious. I think what these people are banking on isn't the common sense about that the camera is gonna show what really happened. I think they're banking on the thing that other people don't want to put up with the hassle. If you're just disagreeable and loud enough, people are eventually gonna get tired and they're just gonna give you what you want. I think that's the logic. It's not actually thinking about where this would go if it was escalated. It's just assuming that no one else has the time or energy to escalate it, so you end up getting what you want. That's my theory, at least. Anyway, long story short, nothing happened. No one called the cops, everyone got their food, they told Boomer to sit his butt down in the main restaurant and got his food. First time I saw that Dumbo in the area, I really hope I don't run into him again. I wonder if he learned his lesson or if he'll try the same poo again. One thing that I would love to know, if there's any kind of statistic and stuff about that out there, is if the people who say that speak English here, we're in America, are the same people who get weirdly entitled when people don't speak English when they are abroad. Because I feel it's a very similar type of entitlement, isn't it? It has nothing to do with them. They just want the world to revolve around them. Is this a main character syndrome? I think it might be. Oh my god, the Venn diagrams are just beautiful. A Boomer freaked out when he found out I'm not part of his homeowner association. Homeowner associations in the US are a wild thing. The more I read about them, the more flabbergasted I get. Let's get into it, shall we? My parents had this rental property that they passed on to me when they died, and the house has been there since before the neighborhood next to it was built, so it's not part of its homeowner association. It's been established several times with the previous renters and my parents. While we were renovating to prepare to move in, we installed gates at 3 entrances to the property because we didn't want people to come into the property. A month after we finished, we had a visit from this Boomer, who opened our back gate since the front one is locked, just to give us a welcome to the homeowner association package. I told him that we're not part of the neighborhood, so the homeowner association doesn't apply to our property. He huffed and said that I am, since this property is right next door. I nicely repeated myself and asked him not to come into my property again without permission. He scoffed, saying he didn't see no trespassing sign, so he could do what he wanted. Eventually, he left. But you literally had to open a gate, though. into a private property. And, you know, I've read some wild things about homeowner association stuff, how it sometimes bypasses other rules and laws and stuff, which is insane. I'm not sure how true it is in practice, but I've seen some wild things circulating the internet about this kind of stuff. But I would imagine that in most cases, a homeowner association doesn't give you the right to, like, trespass or get onto other people's property. That's absolutely wild. And wouldn't it be true the other way around? Couldn't this, like, backfire really fast? If you say, like, oh, if you're part of the association, I can come into your place whenever I want. Then they can just do the same thing to your property, which I'm assuming wouldn't be that welcome. It's funny how far these things go sometimes. The next day, we installed locks on the gates and no trespassing signs. The next thing we know, we are getting homeowner association violation letters in our mailbox. The letters also listed things that were happening in our backyard that someone could only see if they were looking over the fence. These people have nothing better to do. They're like spying over a backyard fence and be like, oh, better report this to the homeowner association. Oh my god. We have a saying in Sweden, which is called självutnämnd polis, which is like a self-appointed police officer, right? It's people that go around being super nosy about things that don't matter, and they just try to act important and correct other people, you know? We have an actual saying for it, and I feel like this applies so well here. After the 5th notice, they kept sending the money. But you're not part of the association. That threatened eviction. But you're not even part of the association. I called the number listed and explained to a lady the situation, and she said that the homeowner association president said we were and was the only one reporting us, but all we had to do was prove we weren't and they would waive the fines and leave us alone. I gathered the paperwork and went to the next meeting where I gave them the paperwork which proved I was right. The boomer then lost his mind and said that it didn't matter and we still needed to follow his rules and change the things he wanted. There's a very special breed of people that go on like insanely wild power trips with the smallest amount of power. Homeowner associations seem to be a place where these people just thrive. Ah, it's astounding. Apparently, the reasons he was upset is that we installed gates and fixed the fence that prevented him from going where he wanted when he went on his walks. The gate's fence also prevented his family from taking a shortcut to the pool. The backyard was filled with things he didn't want seeing from his second-story balcony. And the trees we planted and the new fence prevented him from seeing our entire property. That's like a very interesting, sense of entitlement. When I'm specifically on my second-story balcony, I don't like looking at these things in your backyard. Oh, that's amazing. You would imagine that it's more offensive to peek into someone's property and have an opinion about what they do on their own property rather than you have to clean your own house or yard because of what I see from my balcony. You would imagine that's the order of magnitudes, but apparently not. He got so angry that he needed to be brought into a different room. I left soon after, but haven't heard a thing since. It's amazing how entitled some boomers are. That is wild, and also the fact that he doubles down when, the facts are already established. And it's a shame because even though it's pretty easy to prove something like this, you still have to spend the time and go to the meeting and gather the paperwork just because some entitled person doesn't understand when they shouldn't be pushing the case. That is really embarrassing though. What a tiny little man. My god. Foolish Boomer offers my wife and I $25,000 less than what we paid for the house. My wife and I bought a starter home, one of the few left at the time, for $125,000 in 2015. Our neighbors were mostly cool but had a low opinion of our house. It had been a rental house for decades and was in disrepair. We spent a couple of years tearing things down to the studs, room by room, and refinishing everything. Eventually, we had a really cute little house that was comfortable. One day, we got this random knock by the neighbor's boomer dad who offered us $100,000 for the house. We laughed, but he was serious. He then said, "Cash!" as if that would really push us over the edge. We politely declined, and he said,
"This is the best offer you're gonna get for this piece of crap."
We sold it for $175,000 shortly after, and the house is currently worth $260,000. I guess he should have given me a firm handshake and more eye contact to push the deal over the edge. That is so wild, paying less than the initial price and after renovations and stuff too, which means that even if the market had remained the same, the house would still have been worth more because of the money put into it. So this is just so out of touch. I think he just wanted a good deal and trying to strong arm the other people into thinking it was a good deal and be,
"Yeah, I'll pay in cash," and all that kind of stuff, and then he would
just have flipped the house a week later. So I think that is the case, but it's so silly. Oh, no, right into the cement. Oh. Don't you see the yellow lines? You're not okay, let's cross another yellow line, shall we? Oh no, not the, no, it's, oh my god, this is not his day, is it? I crossed this yellow line and got stuck in concrete. How do I get out of it? I know, let's cross the next line and get stuck in the next concrete. What is it? The definition of insanity. Try the same thing over and over and expect a different result. In this case, concrete. Boomer stuck in the 80s economy. I work for Locksmith. Had a boomer come in for a car key and they couldn't comprehend spending our quoted price. Got angry and shouted at one of our apprentices. After him finding out the old owner had sold the company, he called us thieves and left in a huff.
The key's costing almost as much as the car.
Seriously doubt that unless they're really out of touch with how much a car costs.
I remember back in the day, I bought my car for $200 and my house for half a llama.
A few hours later, he came back in with his tail between his legs. He had gone to a car dealership and the cost was almost double ours, and every other locksmith he contacted had higher prices. He then mentioned the cost was still too high and tried to haggle me down before I could even talk. Straight away, I asked him to leave and try somewhere else. I don't give a frick how old you are. No one abuses my workers and attacks my integrity. Go haggle somewhere else. The entire world has doubled in price since COVID, and I am sick of these out-of-touch people taking their frustrations out on us. I hope the next locksmith charges you double to humble your wrinkly butt. That is some sweet instant karma. You could have gotten the good deal because this is obviously like the cheapest place in the surroundings, but instead you pissed them off before even knowing what the reference price would be in the area, and now they won't serve you anymore and you have to pay double. Oh my god, isn't instant karma just a beautiful little thing, isn't it? A boomer upset by Flower's name. Ah, yes indeed. The problem of the day. I was at Home Depot this morning browsing the clearance flowers and had my phone out to read up on the planting requirements of some of the ones I was considering. A boomer Karen came over and started looking too. I had a few already in my cart and she commented they were pretty and asked what they were called. I replied they were gay feather. She turned up her nose in disgust and commented, those people just have to make everything theirs, don't they? I'm pretty sure the name of that plant is probably pretty old, if I'm gonna be honest. Come again? Everything just has to be gay. Gay, gay, gay. I laughed at her and said, pretty sure the name came when gay meant happy and not homosexual, but whatever. I was going to ignore her, but she kept at it, now getting mad. You don't have to use profanity. What profanity? The H word! Homosexual? You're a disgusting pervert. Homosexual is not profanity. Birch is profanity. She huffed off, muttering how crass and rude kids are today. Birch, I'm 40 frickin' too! By the way, the gay feathers look nice and phallic in my garden. Kids these days are just people below the age of 50, I guess. What fascinates me as well about this interaction is that this lady should definitely be old enough to know the old definitions of words and know that flowers like this have probably been named many decades ago. That is the most fascinating thing. She just turns it into something to be offended by when she should very easily just know that that wouldn't be the case. That is pretty funny. You should recommend she plant some stiffcock or nipplewort. That sounds like something out of my D&D adventure. Are these actually real things? Are these? Oh my god, I need to do that. I need to have a herb store in my D&D world that I'm currently running me and my friends that just have inappropriate names, but it's completely innocent stuff. And then next door, there's a store where everything is named super wholesome things, but it's super dirty stuff. This would be hilarious, especially when you're a bit tipsy, which my group tends to be. They're not very productive. They usually just blow themselves up and somehow survive anyway. It's a beautiful group. Grocery store boomer is mad my husband wasn't offended. My husband, 28, works as a meat cutter in a grocery store. He has long-ish hair. It goes right past his shoulders, tied back at work, of course. While he was stocking some meat, a customer approached him, and this is how the conversation went. Male boomer.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Husband turns around. Boomer.
I meant sir. Insert condescending tone. Or ma'am? Sir?
Husband. Oh, you can call me whichever. It doesn't offend me. Boomer.
It should.
Leaves basket and exits the store. I'm sorry, but what? Edited for spelling. Boomers when something they say doesn't offend you.
It should.
Also boomers,
You can't say something without someone being offended these days.
He was really trying to push some buttons about stuff that most people are just completely chill with. And also one thing that kind of strikes me as odd, even if you don't want to get into like the whole gender thing about this, which I believe is what he was trying to like, troll and insinuate about, long hair has been kind of a fashion thing that has come and go many times, including when he was probably younger. So that is like a really weird thing to try to push, but I'm assuming it's different, because back then it was something else, Never mind those like 80s rock bands and that kind of vibe, but... That is so funny. He was so upset they weren't offended. Oh, that's so silly. A boomer neighbor now in jail because she thought she bought a view and a quiet in a subdivision. How do you end up in jail? Because how far did she escalate this? The boomer lady that lives 2 down from me bought early in our neighborhood. There were 2 empty lots by her. It's a golf course community. Her property, however, only backs into some woods between holes. I bought the property 2 down that sits on the green. She could see the green when the lots were empty, but after the houses were built, less well, but she could still see. The lot between us sold and a family moved in. They and us have 5 little kids. We both have the builder put a fence up. The fence was installed into the buffer zone between the golf course and our property owned by the homeowner association. Almost every other house in the neighborhood has a fence or bushes in the buffer. It mostly exists for drainage. One rule is no structures in it. Me and the other new house have a few kids each. They play outside, much less than I did their age, but some. Lady is pissed we built houses in the empty lots and a half-finished subdivision. Says we stole land for our fence. She also thinks she's entitled to country quiet living on a 0.2 acre lot. She starts harassing me and my neighbor. First, little things. She turned me into the homeowner association for something in my backyard, which puzzles me. She called the cops because the kids were playing outside at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. She filed a complaint against a realtor. The neighbor on her other side abrupt moved. Probably another story there. She really took it out on the wife next door. She was afraid of the husband. They end up getting a restraining order, but she doesn't stop. She walked into their yard and filmed them through their windows. That got her arrested and charged with a felony. Oh my god. Okay, here's the thing. Restraining orders are a little bit tricky to get, right? I've had people in my surroundings and stuff and myself that have had to deal with this sort of stuff in the past, and especially like refreshing it and getting it in the first place, you need a lot of material to prove that, this should really be a thing. This is something that probably should be taken more seriously, legally speaking. So the fact that you got a restraining order in the first place is like a really big sign that, hey, you need to chill out and stop. But then she kept going and filming them through their windows. That's the wildest thing ever. This is some kind of like, I don't know, entitlement where you believe you're like the main character and completely invulnerable in the universe. Like, oh, I have a restraining order. Nothing is gonna happen. Let me film my neighbors through their windows. Oh my god. Was offered a deal if she would sell and move. Wouldn't take it and out on bail started screaming at the kids in the backyard again. Bail revoked and she's in jail. House is now for sale. Some people just don't know when to stop. When you have gotten to the point where your neighbor has a restraining order against you and you break it, get bailed out, then scream at the neighbor's kids again, they end up in jail and the house gets sold anyway. Oh my god, how many steps do you have to go to realize that it's time to maybe just chill out and this isn't a battle you're winning? Oh dear god. TLDR, Boomer's in jail because she thought she owned 2 empty lots next door and went insane when she realized she didn't. I wonder what she thought was gonna happen. It would be so fascinating to interview people like this and just understand the thought process, if there is a thought process to begin with. I think it's more emotional and just like raw entitlement and a sense of kind of believing that you're some sort of main character or have main character armor that it's not really gonna happen to you, But at a certain point, you've already gotten a restraining order, ended up in jail, bailed out, and then you keep pushing again, and then you end up in jail again. Like, at some point in these steps, you have to realize that it's only gonna get worse for you. You can't keep doing this. I would love to see like interviews with these sort of people and try to understand how the thought process goes, because even though it's a really wild story and I feel bad for the people who have to deal with it, it's just fascinating. It's really fascinating in a weird way. Karen gets put in her place. What country are you from? Shaking my freaking head.
I asked you what country you're from. That says exactly what it says up there.
What did you say?
Doesn't say that.
Did you say what country I'm from?
Yeah.
Oh,
Listen,
God.
You can't understand that English written right up there.
Miss, I have lived in America just like you did. Now get out my store.
Boo.
Get out my store.
I'll dispute
Boo.
Oh,
Boo.
please.
Boo. You're the problem. Boo.
Better guess again, pal.
It's $1.20. Boo. You're white trash. White trash. White trash.
We're not allowed to wear barefooted. Sure we are.
Oh my god, that is such a wild thing to do. Did you really go up to the worker in the store and try to like call him out or something and be like, I don't think you can read this sign in your own store because it's in English? And then it's like, what country of... Karen, please. Karen, please. You look very silly and you're just a little bit racist. Please cease. Thank you. I did it. I won one today. I actually won an interaction with a boomer for once. Being me, a millennial working retail, it's a 10 a.m.-ish, and I am making small talk with a customer. Customer, I'm still tired, but I shouldn't be by now. That's okay. I'm still tired too. Cue the boomer loading his shopping into the belt. Boomer, that's the problem with the youth of today. This muffa actually said it. Still tired at this time. I'm retired and I go up at 7. Yeah, well, I was up at 5. That's the thing with retirement. You might like it if you have no work ethic, or if you're lazy, but you just like to sit around, but I can't stand it. Well, if you miss work so much, there's nothing stopping you from applying for another job. Boomer goes silent. Clearly no one he's insulted before has ever pointed this out. He changes topics to dealing with the shopping. My face after winning a boomer encounter. That is so good. That is such a good turnaround. Oh my god. Complaining about how you're not enjoying retirement and then not getting a job instead. That just seems like you want to complain and just poo on others instead of actually doing something. It doesn't sound like you're actually, that dissatisfied with it. It just sounds like they need to make it sound like they're more ambitious somehow, that they're still part of the grind set or something like that. They don't want to be seen as lazy. Just enjoy your retirement. You worked your entire life probably. Just enjoy it. It's okay. And if you want to work on the side, like get a hobby or work out more or travel or get another job as well, it's fine. Like, darn fam, you're at that age when you can probably just sit back or like spend time with your grandkids and stuff. That's very fun. Like offload your kids a bit. There's plenty of things to do that you can. Just like doing this to cashiers about it, probably not the way to go about it. Boomer tried to take my baby out of her stroller. What? Oh my god, like I've heard about entitlement when it comes to like touching other people's kids and doing weird things, but this takes some sort of cake. I was shopping at a relatively small family grocery store near my house. I had taken a walk with my baby in her stroller as I was finally feeling well after my C-section and wanted to go stretch my legs. I went in with my 6-week-old in her stroller looking freaking adorable and picked up some bottled water for the walk back and some gum. Baby was facing away from me and sound asleep. I took my wallet out of the stroller to pay and saw the cashier look startled suddenly. So I looked where she was looking. Lo and behold, there was a white head of hair in pink sweats trying to unbuckle my child. I let loose with all my newfound mama bear language and whack a molded said boomer on the back of her freshly done hair with my wallet. That unleashed some entitled attitude from her in the form of, "Nurse wretch, what the heck are you doing?" Y'all, it was my grandma! We both learned a lesson that day, and she told that story to everyone. And to her credit, she owned her part. Every once in a while, a boomer gives a great memory. Miss you, Jimmy.
That is kind of a sweet story. They really had us in the first half. I thought it was one of those like borderline kidnappings when someone feels entitled to touching everyone's kids. But there's just hilarious misunderstanding because she probably thought that the mom had seen them. She's like, "Oh, we're at the same store. I gotta play a bit with the baby." And the mom was like, "Oh, it's a stranger. Slap him."
Oh, that is so funny. That is such a good memory. Aldi boomer. Checking out at Aldi today. Boomer couple behind me. The guy starts heckling the cashier, saying, "Go faster! Go faster!" Note, she was scanning my items very quickly as it was. As Mr. Impatient is heckling, he's also jiggling his cart forward and backwards. And in doing so, he pushed the cart against my butt. I said, somewhat sharply, "Excuse me." He said nothing and started heckling and jiggling again, hitting me with the cart again. I said, "Sir, please stop pushing your cart into me." He had the nerve to say, "What's the big deal? You've got enough padding."
Ah, yes, indeed. The beautiful combat. Pushing your cart into people, and if they complain about it, it's like, you're fat. What a nice person.
His wife had the awareness to look ashamed, though she didn't say a word. I was speechless for a moment and then said, "That doesn't give you the right to assault me." I guess assault was the magic word, because he finally backed up, sputtering about me being ridiculous. I moved away from the register to bag my groceries, only to hear Mr. Impatient start it again with, "Go faster!" And the cashier, to her eternal credit, calmly said, "I am not going faster. I am denying you service. You're being rude to me and you assaulted a customer. You can leave now." Of course he started yelling, but his red-faced wife just grabbed his arm and started pulling him away. Hurrah for the cashier! Maybe the boomer learned something. I really doubt it, because this hardly sounds like it's the first time. It sounds like something they're very used to doing. But I hope they learned something. If nothing else, it's a very satisfying story with a bit of karma. No shopping for you! That is wild, though, egging on a cashier as if they are like a racehorse or something. Yeehaw, faster, scan those way, boy! Absolute insanity. Boomer father-in-law thinks everyone should wake up when he does, at 4 a.m. My boomer father-in-law loves to wake up at 4 a.m. For no particular reason. Even when he's on vacation, he does this. They only come to visit us twice a year because they live so far away. Every time he comes, he wakes up at 4 a.m. and stomps around the kitchen banging things until we wake up.
Oh, so it's one of those things where he's technically not waking you up, but he just happens to make enough noise so people wake up so he's not bored and alone in the house.
What a treat. He often fires up the lawnmower or snowblower by 5 a.m. as well. I'm gonna be honest, I think in Sweden that's not like legal noise-wise, depending on where you live, of course, but I think it's something like, before 6 in the morning and after 10 in the evening, the amount of noise you can make is very limited, when it comes to like yard work and construction, that sort of thing. So, I think those are the rules. Not sure if it applies in this story, but that's wild. That is wild. He usually forces his wife to get up at 4 a.m. as well so she can make him coffee, because God forbid he push the button himself. Oh my god. Then he will sit at the table like a toddler, grumbling that breakfast isn't ready yet at 4 a.m. while she rushes to make it for him. By 9 a.m. he's ready for a nap, and we have to be quiet while he sleeps.
That is so insufferable. Oh my god, so he wakes up super early.
Just to nap at 9, which is, when people normally start having breakfast and stuff, if it's a weekend and people are taking a chill and that sort of thing.
Then you have to be quiet. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's a one-way street. He doesn't have to be quiet at 4 a.m. and starts the lawnmower. But you have to be quiet when he takes his morning nap because he's tired because he was lawn mowing at 4 a.m. Oh my god, what an impossible person to live with. Last time they came to visit, we told him very clearly that we would appreciate it if he could refrain from making noise until 7 to 8 a.m. We have young children and he can't be waking them up at 4. He birched about it for quite a while. We even gave him a coffee machine in his room and a TV so he wouldn't have to wait. He's bored in the morning alone, he says. He got into a hissy that he left the next day. I mean, that's kind of a wild thing though. If he's bored that no one else is around, then you have to adjust your schedule so other people are awake at the same time. You can't possibly expect the world to change for you. That is wild. He got into such a hissy that he left the next day, taking his wife with him, of course, so she had no time to actually visit the grandkids. I feel so bad for her. Not only does she have to wake up at 4 in the morning to make him coffee because apparently that's too difficult to do himself, she also can't visit the grandkids because when he's having like a tantrum, she has to attend him and go home with him. That is exhausting. After coming all this way, they storm out because we won't start the day at 4 a.m. with him. We both work. Ugh. That is so entitled. And some people have different like sleep rhythms and stuff, don't get me wrong, but you also accommodate. If you want to stay up later than the rest of the people in the household, you do it without bothering them. If you wake up much earlier than everyone else, you go do your activities that doesn't bother anyone else. It's relatively easy to like not specifically do lawn mowing at 5 a.m. Especially if you have to take a nap at 9 a.m. because you wake up so early, then maybe it's not about waking up so early. You can instead just, I don't know, sleep a little bit longer and not have your morning nap a couple hours after you woke up. Oh my god, what is this? A boomer tried to tell me I parked illegally on my own property. I have a large backyard that has room for extra company to park, etc.
So my mom left her car at my house while she traveled rather than pay $10 a day at a local airport. Put her car in the backyard and wake up the next morning to a handwritten note that the alleyway was private property, and if it was not removed immediately, it would be towed. So me being me, I pulled the deed to my house, and sure enough, I have easement access to said alley to get to my backyard. Not only do I have access to it, my house is the oldest house to my street, and the original deed actually granted the other properties access. So I printed out a copy of my old deed and took it to Boomer, and she said, well, you shouldn't park on grass, and huffed away. I said, you come on my property again and I will gladly call the police for trespass. Can you imagine, like, sneaking onto someone's yard to put an angry note on their car that is literally just on their property? These people really need hobbies, man. God. My sister passed away from cancer 2 years ago, leaving behind her daughter, now 3. She used to love to bike to the end of the island where we vacation. My brother-in-law, her widower, and I took the kids on a bike ride there this weekend. The kids were collecting seashells, and we started shaping them into a heart for niece's mom / my son's aunt. That is so sweet. A Boomer was nearby also collecting shells and saw what we were doing. Once the kids finished the heart, they were splashing in the water nearby. I turned around and Boomer came over and was dismantling the heart to take her pick of shells. These were just your basic clam shells, nothing fancy. My niece saw her and pouted a little, and the Boomer said to her, I like shells just like you, like she was trying to bond with her while destroying her little art project to her mom. Absolutely no self-awareness. And here's the picture, and oh my god, it's kinda shameless, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, they couldn't possibly have known what it symbolized, I suppose, but you still shouldn't do this. You know, the kids have worked on this little project, they're just playing nearby. If you're collecting shells and you want to grab something that someone else is done with at the beach, at least wait until they're done. Like, wait until the kids are no longer around, at least. Dear god, that seems like the minimally decent thing to do. Anyone else's Boomer parents regularly tell them that the kids are their retirement plan? That's very nice surprise pressure, isn't it? Literally at graduation for my master's program, my mom and stepdad made the joke, well, good thing you're gonna make a bunch of money because you're our retirement plan. It makes my blood boil. They lived through the best economy America's ever seen and apparently have only Social Security to live off of? What happened? Same people who get cold calls from companies offering discounts and gift cards for signing up family members. MLM adjacent. So he gets a $50 gift card when I sign up, and calls it a favor to me. Can't do anything for anyone unless there's something in it for them. Just baffling. So expecting your newly grad child to take care of you and also take care of their own family if they decide to have kids and that sort of thing. That's a lot of pressure. Like, don't get me wrong, helping your family out and taking care of family members when they get old, helping out with like house chores and that kind of stuff, perfectly normal. You know, heavy things that get more difficult the older you get. But literally expecting someone to take care of you and finance you and everything when they might want to have a family of their own is a wild expectation to have. You probably should have planned your economy better in that case. Jesus Christ, dude. Boomers when you complain about the housing market. I mean, it's one house, Michael. What could it cost? $20,000?
Yeah, it's about $20,000. That'd be swell.
To be fair though, I was actually looking at like a house in the middle of nowhere with a few buddies, because this is a few years ago, it's not really relevant, it was more like a fun idea, that we should buy just like a house in the middle of nowhere so we could go there like once a year and just party in the middle of Swedish woods. It was like far away, you know, in a dead village way up north in the Swedish woods, and that costed literally $20,000. But I'm not even sure if the house had running water and that sort of thing. So, you know, very old, very abandoned, out in the middle of nowhere. Then you can find something for this sort of price. That's reasonable. But anywhere where you would actually like want to live or can actually work? Not so much, no. Here is how they raised millennial kids. Go to college, 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 go to college. Why do you go to college if you want an electricity and a roof? Your kids are overeducated and over gay. Silly millennials. Oh my god, you expect a roof and electricity?
Back in my day, it was so easy. Explain.
Grandma got mad at me and taped up the dryer so I can't dry my clothes. Went to the pool with some friends and stayed 1 hour past curfew. So as punishment, my grandma taped up the dryer knowing the rest of my clothes in the washer needed to be dried, and the bikini set I was wearing is soaking wet. Tighten all the jars before you leave! Why didn't they just untape it? It's more of the "I know you used it, you can't 'cause I'm mad at you" than an actual physical deterrent. Yeah, it's just about causing a scene, isn't it? What a weird hissy fit. Let's potentially ruin your clothes because you were at the pool. That's probably not like a very constructive thing. That just seems like it's gonna create a lot of anxiety in the family and make them move out fast. Yeesh. A pastor assaults wife in plane meltdown because she got a first-class upgrade. He didn't. Wait, what? What a great little person, isn't it? My God, hopefully he got just tossed out of the plane for that. Jesus Christ, can you imagine this? Like your partner gets upgraded. Instead of being like, hell yeah, babe, go get that champagne. You're just like, oh my God, instead of me being upgraded, I will assault my wife. That is wild. The Wall Street Journal. Okay, boomer, who's going to buy your 21 million homes? Baby boomers are getting ready to sell 1/4 of America's homes over the next 2 decades. The problem is, many of these properties are in places where younger people no longer want to live. Ooh, this reminds me kind of like the rising sea level thing, where it's like talking about properties where the sea level might rise. And then the solution is just sell it. To who? Who's gonna... to who?
Dear Abby, my pregnant daughter insists I shower before seeing her child, says longtime smoker. I have read everything about third-hand smoke and haven't found any statistics about the amount of exposure it would take to harm a baby.
Are we really backtracking this whole thing?
Peak boomer, SMH. At least the response is on point.
Oh my God, smoking isn't bad for babies.
What is this? 1960?
Joe is not forgiving student loan debt. He is transferring it to you. Remember that this November.
Oh, I'll remember all right.
I remember paying my student loans $10 a month forever, but I paid it back.
$10 a month? Oh my God, if student loans were the same payment as literal Netflix, actually maybe that makes sense. Maybe the boomer arguments start making sense now when they're talking about like Netflix subscriptions, smartphones, and avocado on toast, and that sort of thing. If you genuinely believe that like you can't afford the student loan payments, and you also believe it's only $10, it's like, well, you can only cancel on Netflix, and you can afford it so easy. If that's actually what they believe, then their arguments, well, make sense is a strong word, but it makes sense to them. Did we crack it?
If you want great notice, get a Filipina. If you want true love, get a heckin' dog.
This is a shirt that you confidently wore out in public. I could dress in nothing but a trash bag, and that would be less trashy than this.
My biggest regret was having children. I gave my life to my kids. They got everything. The best clothes, the best food, the finest schools, and I stayed in a loveless marriage for 25 years to make sure they got a good education. They complained every day of my life. The clothes weren't expensive enough. The food wasn't good enough. They never went to class. All in all, a total waste of my entire life. My oldest is 33 and my youngest is 31. It's 9 years since I've seen or heard from them. They don't answer emails. I don't know where they are. I feel like to them, I was just an ATM. Ooh, that rhymes. It's like a little like LinkedIn poetry or whatever. Or maybe this is Quora. Upvote. It has 4.1k upvotes. Okay, so no one else sees the pattern. If you like stayed in a loveless marriage for 25 years, maybe that affected the kids as well. No? You were in a 25-year loveless marriage. I am thinking your kids didn't see any of that love either. Okay, let's see. Here's a little bit of stuff. Lives in the Philippines. He lives in the Philippines now. So what's the betting he has a new, much younger wife? Seems to be a boomer thing. Oh yeah, that would explain a few things. Moved to the literal other side of the world with a new wife that's younger than your current kids are. And also the kids were probably not very happy at home to begin with because of the loveless marriage. Yeah, I mean... Because no one paid us $15 an hour, and isn't it amazing we bought house, cars, clothed our children, and put food on the table?
Okay, I saw a comment under this pointing out the fact that it's amazing that this person was able to afford everything and get a job that could afford them all this kind of stuff when they don't even understand how inflation works. That is so funny. That is such a glorious self-report that I think is more beautiful than any other counter-argument. Jeez. Well, laddies, lasses, and lassos, I do hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed having you here today. You wonderful, beautiful bean. Have an amazing rest of your day because you do deserve it, and I will see you in the very next video. Take care. Mwah.